How much do you have to bring to closing when you buy a new home? How much does it cost to really buy a home in the Omaha market? Well, that's the subject of today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Hi, my name is David Matney with Nebraska Realty. I'm a local realtor here in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, if you like today's content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. Now, let's jump into today's topic. Today, we're going to review an actual ALTA settlement statement for a buyer. ALTA stands for American Land Title Association, and this statement gives an exact breakdown down to the penny for the cost of buying a home. On closing day, you'll sign this document as part of the closing process. Now let's take a look at the document. Here is page 1 of the buyer settlement statement. At the top, you'll see where the title company is listed, and then the second big portion is for the property address, the buyer's name, the seller's name, the lender's name, and the actual settlement date. And at the bottom of the page, that's where you'll see the breakdown between the debits and credits for the buyer. Now, a debit is a cost or expense, and a credit is an asset. And we'll make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. And here's where you can see the sales price of $250,000. The buyer had an earnest deposit of $2,000. Now, the earnest deposit was written by the buyer and usually made payable to the title company. The title company holds it in escrow, and then at closing, it's credited back to the buyer. And then you'll also see what's kind of interesting, you'll see a debit and a credit, and the loan is actually a credit. Even though it may seem like it's an expense, it's actually an asset from the lender providing to you, and then of course you pay that back, but it shows as a credit on the settlement statement. And then below that, and this was a loan of $242,500. So the lender had to have a down payment of 3%. It was a 97% loan to value. So the buyer came in with a 3% down payment. Okay, the next line is going to be proration for the taxes. Our property taxes are paid in arrears, meaning we paid 2022 taxes in 2023. But on the purchase contract, they're treated as if they're current year taxes. It's very confusing, especially if you're coming from out of state. It's going to really seem kind of crazy. But in this case, the seller paid the first half of the taxes. So the buyer has to pay that seller back those days that the seller no longer owned the property, meaning from April 27th through July 1st. And that's going to be a debit of $861.77. The next line is going to be a credit to the buyer, and this was a NIFA loan. NIFA stands for Nebraska Investment Finance Authority. The buyer was using conventional financing but had help from NIFA for closing costs and down payment assistance. It enabled the buyer to get a loan from NIFA at a 1% interest rate for up to 5% of the purchase price. So in this case, the buyer got $12,459.64 in down payment assistance. If you want to learn more about NIFA, I did a video on NIFA. I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll leave a card in the card above. Now, the next charges are the loan charges from the lender. Everybody's got to make money. Nobody works for free. So in this case, there was a loan origination fee from the lender for $1,212.50. Now, the next line was prepaid interest. When you buy a home, if you closed on it on April 27th, your first payment isn't due until June 1st. So what has to happen is that lender has to be made whole for the interest that was accrued during the month of April. So in this case, it was $189.36. And that's why a lot of people like to close towards the end of the month, because it saves in prepaid interest. The next charge is a processing fee to the lender, and that was for $1,000. The next charge was for the appraisal. Now, when a lender loans money on a property, they want to make sure they protect their investment. So they want to do an appraisal on the property. In this case, the appraisal was $525, and then there was an admin fee tacked on top of that for $120. The lender is also going to do a credit report, and that was $42.50. And there was a flood certification, and that was $10.25. And that completes page 1 of 3 of the buyer's closing statement. And this is page 2 of 3 of the buyer's settlement statement. Now let's look at page 2 of the buyer's closing statement. At the top, you're going to see an impound account. What's going to happen is, because the lender is going to require and wants to make sure that the buyer pays their homeowner's insurance and their property taxes, the lender is going to take care of that for the buyer. So they're going to set up an account to pay those property taxes and insurance every year. The lender wants to make sure that gets done. So that's why they set up an impound account. Now in this case, they're also governed by law on how much they can put in the impound account. So in this case, the lender starts off with a 3-month cushion for homeowners insurance, and that was $405.48. And then the lender is going to have to pay the property taxes again in July. And so they're going to want a 6-month cushion of property taxes. In this case, $2,419.56. And you can see that there's an aggregate adjustment because they can only put so much in that impound account. So they credited back to the buyer $405.48. Now we're going to talk about title charges and escrow settlement charges. When you buy a home, you're going to want to make sure that you have title insurance. And what's unusual about title insurance is normally you get insurance for some event that happens in the future. But title insurance is different. It insures for things that may have happened in the past. So you want to protect your ownership by having a title insurance policy to make sure that nobody comes knocking on your door saying, hey, I have an interest in this property. That's what a title insurance policy is going to do. The lender's going to have a policy, and there's going to be an owner's policy. And that's what you see with the $37.50 and the $472.50. And then there's going to be a closing fee charged by the title company, and that's $275. And then you're going to see a bunch of other little fees that are tacked on by the title company. And all title companies have them. There's like a closing protection letter, a courier fee, a recording fee, all of those as well. And then there's also going to be a settlement fee of $250. Those fees are all charged by the title company. Now below that, you're going to see a broker flat fee charged to the buyer by Nebraska Realty. In this case, it was a $495 broker flat fee. And there's also going to be some government recording and transfer charges. In this case, the buyer is going to record the deed down at the courthouse. They want to give constructive notice to the world that the buyer has an interest in this property. And that's going to be recording the deed down at the courthouse. And to do that, that's going to be $146. And then under miscellaneous, there's going to be a pest inspection fee to, in this case, to Bug Z for $95. When a lender's going to loan money on a property, they want to do a termite inspection. And they do that in order to protect their investment. Now, in this case, it was $95. It's charged to the buyer, and that's the termite inspection. And the other thing you're going to see is the homeowner's insurance premium for 12 months. The day the buyer moves into the property, they have to have insurance on the property. Okay, that's going to cover for the first year. And then the following year, it's going to add up from the escrow, from the impound account. But in this case, for 12 months of insurance for the buyer, that's $1,621.98 for that first year's of insurance. And then you can see at the bottom, they're going to do some adding, and they're going to do some add up these debits and credits. And then you can see at closing, what's going to be due from the buyer is going to be $3,026.78. Now, the buyer's going to have to bring that amount of money to closing in order to complete the purchase. Now, when the buyer brings that money to closing, it cannot be a personal check. It has to be a cashier's check. And then at closing, the buyer is going to sign all of the documents. And this is one of the documents they're going to sign, is the settlement statement. But the buyer is also going to have current government issued photo ID as well when they come to closing. Page 3 of 3 of the settlement statement is where all of the buyers are going to sign, and the escrow agent is going to sign on behalf of the title company. That's what a settlement statement looks like for a buyer. And every purchase is going to be different. This is just to give you some general idea of the potential charges when buying a home. Obviously, it's going to depend on the type of financing and the type of insurance and credit score. A whole bunch of different factors are in play. But hopefully this will give you some idea of what it will actually take to purchase a property. If you want to learn more about NIFA financing, be sure to check out this next video, and you make it a great day.